Now, a campaign to raise £100,000 for a statue in Plymouth of the first female MP to enter the House of Commons is nearing its target.
This year marks a century since Nancy Astor took up her seat, and campaigners from across the political spectrum are backing calls for a statue in her honour.
Among them is Roma Williams from Derriford, who was a member of Lady Astor's election team. Now aged 97, she has been speaking to our reporter Cathy Wardle.
It's been over 70 years since Roma Williams was last at 3 Elliot Terrace on Plymouth Hoe, the former home of Nancy Astor, the first woman MP in Parliament. Roma worked for Nancy's campaign team during her long reign as a Plymouth MP.
She was a lovely lady with lots of energy, and I think Plymouth should be very grateful for all that she did for Plymouth. She just was so lively. People wanted to respond to her. But I think she really did love Plymouth, which is why I would love the monument to be erected outside the house.
American Nancy was frank, outspoken, and her approach was seen as refreshing. At that time, Plymouth had more women voters than men, having suffered greatly in World War I, and some had just been given the right to vote. Nancy won the Plymouth Sutton seat in a landslide victory in November 1919. Alexis Bowater is leading the campaign to get a statue in place in time for the 100th anniversary of Nancy's historic election.
The women of this city rose, the people of this city rose, and they plotted and they planned with their first vote, their first choice, their first chance to put a woman into Parliament, and their choice was Nancy.
The campaign group only has until Tuesday to reach its £100,000 target. If they exceed it, they intend to create a legacy fund to help future Nancy Astors from the city to enter politics too.
We are in a death or glory scenario. If we don't raise the money, we don't get any money. If we don't raise the money, there's no statue.
There's still another £10,000 to raise. The statue would be on Plymouth Hoe, near Nancy's former home, looking out over the forward-thinking city that embraced her. Nancy Astor didn't just break through the glass ceiling of politics, she smashed through it with both fists. But it was only possible because the people of Plymouth empowered her to do so. And with their votes, they changed the course of history. Cathy Wardle, ITV News, Plymouth.
So let's get more on this from the former MP Anne Widdecombe, who is at home on Dartmoor. Anne, thanks very much for coming on the programme this evening. You are backing this campaign. I have to say, it seems that just for once all political parties are in agreement over something, which is nice.
It certainly is nice, and what we're in agreement over is honouring the achievement of Nancy Astor in becoming the first woman to take her seat in Parliament. And that was 100 years ago. In 1919, so this year is the centenary of that, and I think it's a very fitting tribute to Nancy Astor that we should have her statue in her town of Plymouth.
And in many ways, quite surprising that this hasn't really been raised now. It's a shame that it's taken 100 years for people to really get talking about what Nancy Astor achieved all those years ago.
Yes, that's quite true, and of course this statue itself has been put up not by any official move, but by crowdfunding. And by the way, we're about to run out of time in a few days. And there's been a tremendous response. So it is really a bit odd, I think, that perhaps we didn't think of this before.
Now, there are 208 women in the House of Commons at the moment. That is a record high. I've seen it claimed, though, that at this rate it's going to take another 9 elections to achieve equality. It's a pretty painful process, isn't it?
I think that's a meaningless equality. Equality is not about statistics. I don't want to see more women in the House of Commons just for the sake of having them there. They should compete equally with the men, as I had to do, as Thatcher had to do, as cross-party people like Shirley Williams, Barbara Castle had to do. Compete equally with the men and get there on merit, not have artificial smoothing of the path. So I'm not worried about numbers. I never have been. Much more worried about quality. I think we do ourselves good if we have women of quality in the House of Commons, quality MPs, really able MPs, and not just quantity.
You mentioned a little earlier during the interview, time is running out to raise this £120,000. You've only got a few days left.
Yes, we had a crowdfunding aim of £100,000. We're over 80. But it's the sort of arrangement whereby if we don't get the full lot by the 30th of January, we lose everything that we've raised. So really, if you support this, help us.
Good to hear from you today, and thanks for coming on the programme.